Welcome to the Songs of Glimmerwick devlog. Today is all about the secret lives of NPCs, how we make them feel alive, how we manage them all, how we control where they go and what they do, and things we've learned about NPC AI over the last decade of making two big games with lots of lively characters. We also have a very special announcement about the game. If you stick around until the end, I'll tell you all about it. It's almost as big as it gets. The biggest thing would be release. It's not that. But it's maybe one step below that. I'm very excited for it. Have you ever thought to yourself, man, wouldn't it be cool if NPCs in games had their own lives? Like every NPC had a place to sleep and a job, and they dynamically got hungry and had to use the loo. Basically The Sims, but in an RPG. Why don't games do that? It'd be so much more immersive. Well, eShade Studios is working on our second game with NPC Schedule AI, and I've done a lot of thinking about this topic. Now, when we think AI, we often think combat AI, but I'm talking about schedule or life AI, like what NPCs do when you're not looking, where they live, sleep, and how they talk to other NPCs in the world. So why don't devs make more robust NPC Schedule AI? Is it just really hard to program, or hey, maybe devs can use that fancy new generative AI to help with this? Well, let me tell you how things look from where I sit. NPC Schedule AI is not a programming problem. Not a particularly hard one anyway. NPC schedules are a design problem. They're an art problem and a data markup problem. You see, coding NPC behavior, like dynamically finding and eating the nearest food when they're hungry, isn't very hard. It's all the other stuff that's hard. Coding an NPC that needs to eat doesn't mean much if you don't fill the world with things to eat, places to eat it, and animations that can accommodate any NPC, any chair or table, and any food or drink. Standardizing table and chair height so any NPC can sit anywhere is a data markup problem and also an art problem. I guess we could call it a programming problem if we were going to use procedural animation for this, but even then, to make that look good, it's probably going to end up being a bit of an art and data markup problem when we're talking about where their bottom goes and where their elbows go and how we can modify that routine so not all the NPCs look like clones of each other when they're eating. So dynamic NPC behavior is pretty easy. Building a world that supports these behaviors with all the requisite interaction points and animations is hard. And finally, back to design. How is this mountain of work going to actually improve the player experience? And maybe most importantly, how will players find this NPC when they need them for a quest and they're off dynamically taking a dump in the woods? These are the hard problems. It's been my experience that if the world is hand-authored like ours are, leaning toward pre-authored routines for NPCs will have better results than dynamic like The Sims will. When you know the NPC in question, and you have a vision for their personality, and you know where they're gonna hang out, and you know every corner of your world, it's just hard to make a dynamic system that will compete with a designer's thoughtful plan about what they should do. That's why I'm in favor of spending more time making schedule markup easier for designers rather than spending time making a dynamic system that will theoretically save designers markup work. If you just make it really easy to hand author great schedules, you won't need as much dynamic. You can always put subroutines in your schedule with simpler rules. Like for instance, this kid runs around in a circle with her sword. This dock worker in eShade moves crates from A to B. And it could even be a more complicated routine than this, like maybe it's a pedestrian that patrols randomly. But by and large, giving the designers more control, in my opinion, has better results in pre-authored worlds. In a procedurally generated world, of course, there's a limit to how hand-authored schedules can be. The next thing I want to talk about are staged moments. So, the thing about dynamic NPC scheduling is that dynamic moments can get weird really fast.
How goes it? I've been better. I hope things get better. Bye. Goodbye. Oh, hello.
And so far, we rarely see what I would call good staging for a narrative come together dynamically. For instance, if you want the player to come across a mysterious figure in a seedy alley, you want a designer or artist to pick or even make the alley. Pick a particular animation or ask an animator to make it. Maybe of them leaning against a wall or something. Maybe tweak the lighting for a bit of extra drama. Moments like that tend to be crafted by an artist's hand. I guess the Nemesis system from Shadow of Mordor had a pretty good crack at doing this dynamically, and while it was definitely a stroke of game design genius that impressed many players, that particular trick seems pretty limited and specific to the narrative concept of that game. Hand-authored staging can be a really useful tool for setting the tone for particular quest beats. Some stories are even impossible to tell without a little canned custom staging. That's why I think for any game with story in it, using a mixed approach for NPCs is best. Sometimes they can be on a schedule or dynamic routine, but sometimes they just need to wait in a particular stage. Some of the most exciting moments for players are these staged moments. A well-written and staged moment that is trip-lined by the player can often make the world feel more lively than any dynamic NPC AI ever could. Games without staged moments can feel dead in a way, no matter how much stuff the NPCs get up to. Many experienced game programmers know this trick, but if you're a newer dev, or maybe just a curious gamer, this tip is going to blow your mind. One of the trickiest problems to solve with NPC scheduling is the interaction of different schedules from events and quests. The best solution for this is a priority stack. NPCs should not just have a single slot for their current schedule, they should have a list of schedules. In many cases, a schedule will just have a single destination or task, such as wait in X location for the player. Each schedule has a priority value. Then the code that governs the current behavior picks the schedule with the highest priority. That means 2 quests can each assign a schedule, and you won't have to worry about game-breaking state issues. Once you complete whatever quest stage is affecting the NPC, that schedule is removed, and they revert to the other quest schedule. Complete that one, and they go back to their regular schedule. Here's another bit of game design gold. In Glimmerwick, there's lots of situations where we want to control multiple NPCs at once, like whenever they gather in a group for classes or festivals. We don't try to schedule each NPC individually to convene at a location. Normally, a schedule controls one NPC and each NPC holds a list of schedules. But we have a different kind of data called a group schedule. Group schedules don't have a list of times and tasks, but rather a list of NPCs and their one task. A group schedule can be assigned to any number of NPCs, and group schedules usually have a higher priority than individual schedules, especially if a group activity is expecting particular NPCs to be present, like in a group conversation. You wouldn't want to have any one of the NPCs missing in that case. Keeping group schedules separate from individual schedules makes the data markup for these events way easier. You're thinking about a group and who you want there, and you simply list the people and where each should go. I'm embarrassed to admit I didn't come up with this until quite a bit into development, so our data for group schedules is kind of hacky in that it uses the same data structure as a regular schedule, but the description strings for the tasks are used to ID the NPCs. It's kind of janky, and there's definitely no reason group schedules shouldn't be its own data type. Okay, so that was a little whirlwind tour of the things that we've learned about building worlds full of NPCs. Now for that very special announcement. The public demo for Songs of Glimmerwick is very, very close. I can't say what day just yet, but any day now. In fact, many YouTubers, streamers, and members of the press are playing it right now. So make sure you're subscribed to this channel to catch it when it goes live. You can wishlist it on Steam and you'll get an email notification from Steam when it does. And of course, you can follow me over on Blue Sky, where I'll be screaming about it nonstop from now until it drops. To say we're excited is an understatement. I don't know if this is the right thing to say PR-wise, but in my opinion, it's the best thing we've ever made. The game, I mean, not just the demo, the whole game. It's a super long demo, between 2 and 3 hours. It's literally just the beginning of the game. You'll be able to continue your save when the full game comes out. And any day now, we finally get to let you get your hands on it and see what this game is all about firsthand. Stay tuned.